we got to talk about the biggest story in politics right now. I'm talking boxes. Boxes and boxes and boxes. The boxes hoax continues, and Donald Trump and his lawyer currently facing 37 felony counts of improperly handling classified documents and lying to the FBI about it. I guess, like, I'll begin here. We on this show for years now have, mined comedy material out of all of the times people have been promising that this is it for Donald Trump. He's going to jail. The Russian collaboration is real, jail time, the death penalty for Donald Trump, my sources say, and as well as had a sort of begrudging respect for Donald Trump in the fact that he has basically committed crimes his entire life without any fear of consequence and gotten away with all of them. And he still could wriggle out of this one, but I got to say, reading the details of this indictment, it really seems like he's fucked on this one. And look, it is a Florida judge that he appointed presiding over this case, but man, the boxes thing really does seem to be a new level for him.
Well, I mean, it's, once again, he's now been indicted twice. 200% more than any other president. Pretty impressive. And in both cases, what he ended up doing is just something so spectacularly goofy and ticky-tacky that it really doesn't impact the office that much. Because, you can't have a precedent of presidents facing consequences for the really criminal shit that being president requires, but it's pretty easy to not just take a bunch of documents and put them in your bathroom.
Yeah, there are like two types of things Trump actually gets in trouble for, right? There's the first category, and that's like, we're just going to call that Eastern Europe, That's doing Russia stuff. Oh, did he meet with Alpha Bank? Oh, there was a meeting in the tower. Oh my God, he had a phone call with Zell Disney, and then the translator guy became a hero. And that's the stuff that he never got in trouble for, because ultimately, who cares? You can probably, as an American, you can do anything to Ukraine or Russia, and no one will know. It's too much to figure out. There's a whole other alphabet. No one cares. And also, on the legal side, if you do, those are generally things that if you do prosecute them, they get into the realm of like the regular illegal things the president does. Like Trump threatening to withhold aid from Ukraine, he does it in a more buffoonish and less subtle way than other presidents. But ultimately, if you prosecute him for that, then you can't go, hey, we're dangling this IMF loan over your head unless you revoke Assange's asylum. You can't do things like that anymore. But then there are the things that are not generally under the purview of a normal president and are so stupid and clownish, like the two things he's actually got in trouble for, boxes and January 6th. He's done them more slovenly than anyone else.
And when it comes to the boxes thing, I'm reminded of what you said about drug testing in MMA, is that it's not a drug test, it's an intelligence test. And I'm just like all the defenses of him are like, well, he's the president. He can declassify any documents he wants and take them anywhere he goes and read them on the toilet. And it's like, well, he didn't. He didn't do those things. And look, I don't give a shit about national security. I wouldn't prosecute him for this stuff, but the feds certainly do. They really care about whether you're showing plans to invade North Korea to a dentist in Mar-a-Lago. And I get the impression that he really is in deep shit with this, because all of these defenders in the conservative media, I have not heard the term nothing burger even once this week. And they've all moved on to these kind of like existential dilemmas, like, what is the law really?
Yeah.
Well, they are making the point. Hillary did it too. All these other people did it too. And he's being unfairly singled out. And that's a different move than saying that he didn't do a crime. To say, okay, but what about these other crimes? But the thing is, you can't go into court with that. It doesn't work. Remember, during the Alex Jones case, when they were telling him, you just were lying about the Sandy Hook, and he's like, well, they lied about the Iraq War. Okay, fine. They're not here in this room. That's not part of this case. Sorry. It's shit's fucked up and unfair. That's how the fucking cookie crumbles.
Ben, you cover DC. Like, how is this story working its way through the ecosystem of the DC media?
Yeah, I mean, it's all anyone's talking about here, and I think one of the parts that you guys hit on that's true is like what makes this different than most scandals in Washington is it's just more hilarious, right? Like, it's not just that it's in a bathroom and there's a chandelier and the toilet is like really low to the ground and
But
it's
the
like
toilet
a
was so
potty for the
low.
president. It's like a strange situation, but also like he's on tape talking about it and he's like, oh yeah, I could have declassified this stuff, but I didn't. Isn't that interesting? And it's like, yeah, it is interesting. And it's interesting that you're talking about it on tape and that eventually we're all going to hear this. And what are you going to say about that now? I mean, it's hard to call it a nothing burger if he's just making it too funny for everyone to not pay attention to.
I like the did you see the one where he's literally talking to like a biographer on the record and he's like, yeah, and I have illegally obtained documents that I didn't declassify showing that General Miley wanted to invade Iran. They're like right over there. And there's an aide in the background literally going, no.
Isn't Kid Rock somehow involved in this too?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
come on, like Kid Rock is gonna bah with the bah, and then all of a sudden we're gonna have like maps of I don't know, what was it, Iran? What is he even showing?
It was
him?
North Korea.
North Korea.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but Ben, you bring up a very important point, which is how low to the ground that toilet was. That was like a
Super
toilet low rider. And I just think it's like, I like to imagine that started out as a regular toilet, but like the density of the dumps being taken on it, like compressed the porcelain into like it just lowered it.
Not me, you.
Well, there's always talk about Trump having a golden toilet, and really the reality is like, no, it's too chintzy, right? He has like a low, weird, wide toilet. That's the actual reality of Mar-a-Lago.
But then there's that touch of class, the chandelier, and then the illuminated sconces. It's just so nice. But then just a box of Kleenex on the fucking sink. An open box of Kleenex.
Well, you got to jack off.
Everyone has their favorite part of the documents bathroom. I like I think every little part of a room tells a story. That's something I say on my HGTV show. And I personally like the shower curtains that were taken out of a closet last taken out in 1985. I like that. I like those because it's like it's in this like country club sized compound, but it's the same logic as like a 27-year-old living without roommates for the first time. Like, oh, I have this extra bathroom. I might as well like put shower curtains here. Maybe a girl's friend will come here, or a girl will find my shower too gross,
or somebody needs a place to privately read all the documents.
Yeah.
I mean, it's never a good sign when your lawyer is in the indictment too. That's not good. That's not good. And 37 felonies here. You could probably go to jail for like 1,000 years off this shit. But, it does raise the prospect of like a Eugene Debs style presidential run in 2024. I mean, it could happen.
I think your lawyer being in the indictment it's normally bad. For Trump, it's good because it's like, well, then he has to defend you guys even if you don't pay him.
Well, no, he's looking for a new lawyer right now that can defend him in Florida.
Oh yeah, and no one will cover him.
Yeah.
Like he has to get a public defender. He has to get the guy whose hand is down his pants in that famous picture. Dog, I'm going to jail.
But I think it's an interesting, the conservative media has taken a number of different tacks on like how to metabolize this. But Ben, have you been following any of his prospective rivals in the 2024 presidential race? Like how are they trying to talk about this issue of Trump getting indicted again?
I think honestly they're trying not to talk about it as much as they can. I mean, it's kind of pathetic, really. There's all this talk about, oh, we need a new form of leadership. We need to move on. I think they try to make the case subtly that wouldn't you rather have a guy who's not indicted running for president? Wouldn't that be better? But then it's like, there's one question that comes up every time. And it's like, well, would you support Donald Trump if he was the candidate? And everybody's like, yeah, of course. And as soon as you say that, like, you're no longer really saying that this is outrageous. You're saying, it's probably fine.
I got to talk about Trump's statement on Truth Social about this, which is a great post. He says here, the corrupt Biden administration has informed my attorneys that I have been indicted, seemingly over the boxes hoax, even though Joe Biden has 1,850 boxes at the University of Delaware, additional boxes in Chinatown, D.C., with even more boxes at the University of Pennsylvania, and documents strewn all over his garage floor where he parks his Corvette, and which is secured only by a garage door that is paper thin and open much of the time. Ben, What are the Chinatown boxes?
Honestly, I don't even remember. Like, all I can say about that is that's one of the most beautiful things ever written. It's like if I could ever write something as poignant as, that, it's like Pete Seeger's Little Boxes, but for this moment right now, just really beautiful work by the former president there.
It's the last sentence where he says, secured by only a garage door that is paper thin and open much of the time.
It's poetry. It's poetry.
I think I saw Kevin McCarthy or Jim Jordan or someone on TV this morning being like, well, storing the boxes in a bathroom is better than a garage because a bathroom door has a lock on it.
It really is so, every part of it is so little kid. Like starting with like, well, someone else did it. And then going like just arguing semantics over like which room of the house is safer. I have to say, I like try to follow all these things. I famously tried to decipher who Nellie and Bruce Orr were. I like to get into the mind of the conservative psycho who's really into these things. I don't know what the fucking Chinatown boxes or the Corvette thing is. I know a lot of lore, and I don't know this.
They found some as vice president from when he was vice president, some documents in his garage. Right. They also found some with Pence. I don't know. I don't really know anything about it. Apparently, like they were technically classified, but it's a lot of that shit. Like they put a stamp on classified on almost everything. And it's not them. Oh, the other thing, the university stuff is literally papers that he donated to a university for like his record, as opposed to just shit that like was taken without being vetted and brought to his hideaway. Where how many foreign agents have been like busted going in and out of Mar-a-Lago with like fake IDs and shit?
Well, if you want to check out our plans to attack Iran, just ask to use the bathroom.
Speaking of like how the rest of the GOP field is trying to take advantage of it, Ben is right. The candidates themselves are like it's either like Vivek trying to make a cool principled stand where he's like, I would have a better chance if Trump was out, but out of principle, I want him in. And it's like, if all the other candidates died, you still wouldn't make it.
In a King Ralph situation, Vivek has a chance.
Yeah, nothing's affecting your chances. You're not going above 2%. But I saw not DeSantis, but DeSantis supporters had a very, as Matt pointed out, a very John Kerry in 2004 supporter online line, which was, I'd rather have a candidate who leaks sweat than leaks national security secrets. You feel the net roots pouring off of that.
Referring, of course, to Ron DeSantis, he gave some sort of gave a stump speech at a barn in Oklahoma where there was no air conditioning, so it was pretty hot in there, and he like sweat through his white shirt. And yeah, the DeSantis supporters are like, oh, the other one was like, imagine getting mad at a guy for sweating. I mean.
Yeah,
everyone's mad. That's what they're doing when they see him just soaking wet there. They're just shaking their fist at him.
The DeSantis people always do that with like any weird or fucking off-putting thing DeSantis does. They're like, oh, look how mad you are at a guy shaking hands with his wife. Look how mad you are at Ron DeSantis' cool voice and the awesome faces he makes.
The sweaty thing is particularly weird too. Like Bernie Sanders was the sweatiest person I ever saw on the trail, and it was awesome. It was just like, oh, here's a guy who's really working for it.
And like the details about how he has to have his hotel rooms at 50 degrees. He's like, he runs
He's
hot.
Like me
that
for
guy.
real.
Yeah.
And I do commiserate with DeSantis on the sweatiness. I mean, as somebody who sweats a lot, but
yeah,
man, just like put a sweat undershirt or something. You should know at that age and at that point what's going to happen to you if you go to Iowa with the humidity above a certain level.
It might be his most relatable thing, though. I mean, he's not a particularly relatable person. I talked to somebody who once flew on an airplane with Ron DeSantis all the way to Tel Aviv, and he told me that the entire flight, DeSantis was sitting there like David Puddy on Seinfeld, no headphones, no book, staring right in front of him,
oh my
twirling
God.
twirling his hair for an entire ride to Israel without even looking down once. So if that's what you're like on an airplane, being sweaty in Iowa is like, oh, look, he's a human being.
Oh my God.
All right, we need to make sure that that's actually sweat and some other sort of fluid.
Yeah, it's not like oil or something.
Yeah.
$5 million or a seat next to Ron DeSantis on a flight to Tel Aviv. Hard to pick.
I mean, he'd be quiet, at least it's a nice quiet ride.
And like Ben, to your point about how like what separates this from other aborted Trump scandals or still ongoing Trump scandals is that like this is funny, but it's also really easy to understand, unlike so much of the other stuff associated with Trump. Like, for instance, in this indictment, I'm reading from the Times here, it says, in one of the most problematic pieces of evidence for Mr. Trump, the indictment recounts how, according to his lawyer's words, Mr. Trump and the lawyer discussed what to do with a folder of 38 documents with classified markings. The lawyer said Mr. Trump made a plucking motion that implied, why don't you take them with you to your hotel room? And if there's anything really bad in there, like, pluck it out.
This is like, yeah, this one, there's no Lev Parnas in this one.
Yeah.
So to say.
Well, and it's also, there's two things happening at the same time. One is it's funny and entertaining and easy to understand. And the other is like the legal stuff is moving, right? Like there's like something is happening tomorrow. All these scandals that happened while he was president, it was like, oh, how's he going to wriggle out of this one? And the answer was time would go by and nothing would happen. But there is a world in which things happen because of all this. And it's hard to wriggle out of the actual, legal proceedings. Not impossible, but it is harder.
Well, that's what I mean by this stuff being an intelligence test. Because like if you wanted to like pilfer all kinds of secret documents, he probably could have just declassified them and then shown it off to his golf buddies or whatever. But he never fucking did that. And now it seems like he's really fucked. Because as I said, like the feds really do care about showing things like where all our missile silos are located to your friends.
Yeah, there's a difference between breaking a norm, which everybody was always yelling about in the Trump years, and breaking the law.
And they probably would like to get him just off of the board once and for all. I'm sure everybody in Washington to one degree or another, even in the Republican Party, would really like it if something happened. And this is the closest thing because it's a relatively depoliticized process compared to any of the political solutions to Trump. So they could just sort of go like, this is terrible what they're doing to him, and just like watch it happen and be like, darn it. Oh, gee, look what they're doing. Oh, boy. Well, bye.
Yeah, well, and then whoever is the candidate could probably run on it, right? If it's Ron DeSantis, he could probably say, look, we have to fight back against the system that got rid of a candidate I would have loved to run against because, he's a real true American and a patriot, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, this is the greatest possible thing for the few normal Republicans out there who like for the past 6 years have had to, been like, oh, I hate Dove billboard ads. I hate the new multiracial Disney pretending they care about anything besides like tax cuts and blowing up Iranian oil fields. This is, they get to make hay about this, while ideally getting a guy like Glenn Blumkin or someone.
Well, I mean, I guess the other thing that I've seen speculated about as regards getting him out of the presidential race is people are saying like, oh, like the DOJ could just make a deal with Trump to drop these charges in exchange for him dropping out of the presidential race and like never seeking public office again. But like, how does that work? How is that legal? Like they can't just do that, can they?
I don't know anything about whether that's legal or not. Also, why would he do that? There's so many other things that he could get in trouble for. I mean, it's sort of like unless he says I can't be in trouble for anything I've ever done ever. Like it seems like not a great deal.
He would also like not take that deal because like there's a world of other things. He's now like the armor has been pierced. Like he could get in trouble for like Georgia stuff now, as you said. And also like in his mind, he's assuming, and like probably correctly so, like the most guaranteed way out of this is for him to be president again.
Well, I mean, he's not wrong about that. Or like, I don't know. I suppose Joe Biden can make a deal with him to like pardon him for any crime he has done or will do ever if he gets out of the presidential race. But I don't see Joe Biden doing that either. But yeah, we love the boxes. People pointed this out, like, but the photo of the boxes in the bathroom is just like such a perfect manifestation of America in 2023. Like it just sums up everything about our government, our culture, and the people in charge of it. It's up there with the handsome hamburger party at the White House.